On this week's edition of Who Deserves to be Inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, we look at the case for putting the Jam into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. This week we are taking a look at the case for putting the Woking, Surrey, England band The Jam into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The Jam started as a group with Paul Weller, Bruce Foxton, and Rick Buckler in 1972, but didn't release their first album until 1977 when they released their debut album In the City. Their last studio album was 1982's The Gift. With that said, let us look at their stats, and as we always do, to the tail of the tape we go. The Jam released 6 studio albums, 10 live albums, 8 compilation albums, and 3 EPs. Of those, 16 hit the top 40 on the British charts, with 9 of those 16 hitting the top 10, including one, 1982's The Gift, hitting number 1. Their biggest selling album was 1983's compilation album Snap, which went platinum. They also had 8 gold albums and 2 silver albums. In America, none of their albums hit the top 40 on the charts, and none of them went gold or platinum. Singles-wise, The Jam released 18 of them. Of those, all of them went top 40, with 9 of those 18 going top 10, including 4 going to number 1. Their 1982 song, Town Called Malice, was their most successful song, going to number 1 and also going double platinum. Their 1980 song, Going Underground, went to number 1 and also went platinum. They also had 7 songs go silver and 1 go gold. In America, only 2 of their songs charted, and probably their most famous in America, Town Called Malice, only made it to number 45 on the charts. Aside from Town Called Malice and Going Underground, they also had the hits The Eaton Rifles, Strange Town, and When You're Young. The Jam were lumped in with the punk rock genre, but they were really at the forefront of the mod revival music movement from the late 1970s to the early 1980s when they broke up. Lead singer Paul Weller went on to form the group The Style Council and then had a pretty good solo career. The mod revival brought back the 1960s era tailored suits and was right around the same time as punk rock and the beginning of new wave. The Jam influenced later bands like the Stone Roses, Blur, and Oasis. All of this begs the question, will they ever get into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? They've been eligible since 2003. The thing that I think is holding them back, from a voter's perspective at least, is that aside from the song Town Called Malice, the voters really don't know the band and its influence. There has been an argument that the Ramones weren't commercially popular in America either. However, American Hall voters knew who the Ramones were and were probably inspired by them, so it's not really a valid argument to make. It will take a major public relations push, I feel, to get the Jam in anytime soon. My feeling, though, is that they should be in because of 2 of my major criteria. If you were one of the lead artists in a musical genre movement, you should be in. The Jam were the face of the mod revival movement in the UK, so they should be in. I mean, British music does count. Hell, half the Hall of Fame is British. Therefore, reason 2 was that they influenced major groups, as I said before, including Oasis, who were nominated for the Hall in 2025. If you've influenced Hall nominees, you should probably be in yourself. Therefore, I think that the Jam should definitely and hopefully eventually be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And that is it for Who Deserves to be Inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. We also invite you to check out our other podcast, the Music History Today podcast, where we go over what happened on that date in music history. That podcast drops daily, including weekends, on this channel that you're either watching or listening to this podcast on. We also have the Music History In-Depth podcast, where we go more in-depth into the events that happened for that week in music history. And that podcast posts every Tuesday on this channel that you're either watching or listening to this podcast on. Thank you very, very much for listening or watching if you're on YouTube or Spotify.